go back in as Joe, log in, and I should now see BS in Genomics under Joe. So notice that it says that I am Joe Schmo now. I can change my password by going to update your profile. I'm going to go into BS in Genomics, and that takes me into the AMP user interface for assessment. I'm going to go through all of these very, very quickly. I'm going to create some program educational objectives. I'm going to create one PEO. I'm going to call it test PEO 1 and add the PEO to the system. Then I'm going to add some student outcomes. And to add a student outcome, I select which PEO it's under. So I'll say it's under PEO 1. Test outcome 1.1, and let's say this is an ABET criteria A. And I'm going to add this student outcome, and then let's add, just for the heck of it, add another student outcome 2, and this is test outcome 1.2, and let's put this one in ABET criteria C. So now we have one program educational objective and 2 student outcomes mapped to it. ABET does not require this, but AMP has this very basic structure of student outcomes to be under one program educational objective. ABET does not require program educational objectives to be assessed as long as all your student outcomes and your ABET outcomes are assessed. So it's just one additional thing that we use, kind of coming from the ASCSB terminologies. All right, so now notice that we have our program educational objectives and outcomes. Next, just create the assessment plan. This is where you will create your assessment cycles. So you can actually have a cycle that has 2 semesters, 3 semesters, however many terms you need. So I'm going to create a first cycle, and I'm going to add Spring 2015 to it. You can actually hold down Control, and if you have multiple semesters, select them in here. I'm going to add this cycle, so now we have one cycle for our assessment. Next is courses and sections. So I'm going to create a course, let's say GE 101, Intro to Genomics. Add that course. Let's create a section in that course for Spring 2015. GE 101, Section 1, taught by Joe Schmo, enrollment 30 students. Add that section. So now we've got this section that we are assessing. Let's just go ahead and create another course, GE 102, Advanced Genomics, and I'm going to add that course. And Spring 2015, GE 102, Section 1, also taught by Joe Schmo, enrollment 50. Add section. So now we've got 2 sections in Spring 2015 that are being assessed in your program. Remember that only sections that are being assessed should be in the database. You do not have to add every section in your program into the system. Next is assessment questions. These are the assessment instruments that you would use. So I'm going to just create a couple of them. Let's say for GE 101, I'm going to create 2 questions. One for test outcome 1.1, question 1, test. Let's say this is a rubric 1 to 3 scale rubric, and minimum standard is B. In many of these AMP systems, you can attach a file. We're not going to do anything like that. Create that. Let's create another question. Q2, test question 2. Let's say this one is just a simple question, maximum score 100. A lot of these are not necessary. You will see how this works when you're doing data entry. Let's create a couple questions for GE102 as well. I'm not going to spend too much time on creating these. So now we have 4 questions in the system. Notice that these are the 4 questions that we're going to assess on. So we're going to go back to task selection. We have completed all of the administrative tasks. Now we'll go into raw assessment data. Actually, before we go into raw assessment data, I can show you there are already a few reports that are available. Student outcome coverage report is now complete. You'll notice that we have 2 outcomes, 2 courses, and they're mapped. Both courses have 1 question each for each outcome. You can show a numeric coverage that shows the number of assessment instruments mapped from each course to the student outcome. It's just a simple report, but it's very, very popular for assessment purposes. Also, program assessment summary. Obviously, nothing has been assessed yet, so there is no summary available. There are lots of reports that are available. I'm going to come back to these in a minute after I insert some data. So let's insert some data. We're going to assess Spring 2015. Let's say, notice that since I'm logged in as Joe Schmo and I'm teaching these courses, I'm going to see all of these in my in my account. But if I'm only teaching a specific course and I'm not an admin, I'll only see the courses that I am teaching in this system. So I'm going to go ahead and add some data. Data addition is fairly simplistic in AMP. There are 2 ways to enter data. If you are using quizzes and things like that, the value of n is the number of students in the class. Notice that it's pre-populated with the enrollment that we did in an earlier step. 101 has 30 students and 102 has 50 students. You could do one of 2 things. You can either, if it's like a multiple choice question or something and there's a number of people who get it correct, you can simply just say out of 30 students, let's say 25 students got it correct, and when you tab out, the mean will get automatically populated. Another option is suppose there is not a correct or incorrect, but there is a minimum standard, and you calculate out of 30 students, so many people got a score above a certain score. So you can also indicate that. Does not look any different, but let's say this was 22 people above this standard. You can also, suppose this is not a multiple choice question or a question that you can identify number of people above a standard, but you're, let's say an essay question, you're giving a raw score to each person. You can calculate the mean yourself and type in the mean in this box directly. In that case, the number of correct you will leave blank, and in fact, it will just become 0 by default. This number is not used for calculation purposes. So let's say that this was one of them, and then finally I'm going to show you one final way to add data. Suppose this is I don't think Q4 was a rubric. I believe Q1 was a rubric, but you can actually go into the worksheet and insert a few. Notice that since this course has 50 students, it all automatically pre-populated 50 scores in here. You can enter names and scores of individual people and hit enter, and then it would update. But typically, this is an advanced step that you do not need to do. One of these 2 methods will work just fine for most purposes. So I'm going to set 45 correct for this one for this demonstration purpose. Click on Save. So now all of our data is saved. It said assessment save is successful. Now let's go and see what the reports look like. We'll go to Assessment Summary Report. Now we do have a summary. It's showing for the academic year 2014-2015. We've got but outcome A has 78% score and C has 83.75. Let's go also look at a few other reports, ad hoc business intelligence reports. There are Lots of reports available. I'm going to run all of them. The first one is pretty nice. It gives you which in each cycle, which courses are there, what's the status of the assessment. If I did not complete assessment in one of these, you will see that X mark showing up there, and whether the loop has been closed. This one is a little more detailed and it breaks it down by sections. We only have one section, so it does not um, it does not look a lot different from the above report, but it is a much more detailed version of this one. Notice that it also shows the person who is taught. This is only available when you are logged in as an admin. No other report shows name of person logged in. This is useful if you notice that there are people who have not performed assessment. You can actually select a term and then say what you want to send reminders for, and you click on send reminders. It's going to send a reminder to every person who has not completed the task. There are several other reports available, including action. So every time you do something in AMP, that gets logged. So if you need to go back in and see what has been performed so far, you could do that in the system. Course performance report, you can select a specific course to see its performance, or you can leave that blank and it will show you all of the courses. Direct measures detail is extremely detailed. Of course, we don't have a lot of data in the system, but you select a cycle and you can either use A-bit outcomes or you can use the standard program educational objectives. Let's use A-bit outcomes and click on continue. What it would do is it's going to take each A-bit outcome. So A-bit outcome A, it's going to show which student outcomes are mapped to it and the data for it. Notice that for A-bit outcome B, there is nothing mapped to it. A-bit outcome C has one student outcome mapped to it, and the other ones we have not mapped anything. So this is really the detailed report that you would probably need to submit for A-bit accreditation. There's more of a summarized report, which is a 2-cycle report that you can generate. We only have 1 cycle right now. Again, we can use A-bit outcomes for it or the program educational objectives for it, whichever one you prefer. I will use A-bit outcomes, click on OK, and it would give you one table for each A-bit outcome summarizing all of the assessment data and improvement data into the system. Notice, so again, A-bit outcome A and C have some data, nothing else has data in the system for it. And finally, there is a nice graphical report. Same thing, you select A-bit outcomes, click on continue, and it's going to give you a graphical representation of everything that is available. It looks kind of sparse now because, of course, we have very little data in the system. So that's basically, in a nutshell, everything that AMP can do. I can definitely give you one-on-one instructions on how this is done, but I thought you'd find this useful. Thank you.